A very good evening and welcome to all the viewers to this Wise Views interactive webinar series, the 23rd that we conduct every Friday. We are very happy that you all have joined regularly, and today we are going to have a very interesting conversation from a distinguished leader, Mr. Ravi Tangirala, the head of MassMutual India. He is joined today to talk about his journey, lessons for us, and the inspiration for youngsters from India and from abroad to dream big. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me and welcome Mr. Ravi Tangirala. Sir, welcome to this wonderful webinar series that's happening. You have adorned it. You have added a lot of value and glamour to it. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a true pleasure. True pleasure.
Very good. And it's a moment of pride for me and all my colleagues to share the screen space along with you.
It's mutual, and thank you so much.
Sir,
and,
I will do a brief introduction and then we can start your talk. Mr. Ravi Tangirala here, he is going to talk about learning for leadership from rural to global, the entire journey he is going to capture. The schedule is first half an hour will be a discussion. It's a talk delivered by Mr. Ravi. The next half an hour is a Q&A moderated by Professor Prasad and myself. I request all of you to mute your mics. Thank you. So a brief introduction of the guest here today. Mr. Ravi heads the Global Capability Center of MassMutual in India. Since 2019, he has been focusing on the digital transformation of MassMutual's products and solutions. He is an executive leader with more than 20 years of international experience in sectors varying from banking, insurance and finance, aviation, security, and US federal agencies. Very important and interesting to understand that he has served in world-class institutions like World Bank Group and others prior to heading these global capability centers for MassMutual. He is also a member of the Board of Advisors of the prestigious Indian School of Business and is a member of the Advisory Committee, IT, Industries and Commerce, Government of Telangana in India. Mr. Ravi is the co-inventor and worldwide patent holder of next-gen green energy products called Solar Mill and Turbo Mill, which are declared as 3 of the hottest clean tech products on the planet by Inc. magazine. This is very, very prestigious, and thank you, sir, for agreeing to speak to us. I think this background is pretty inspiring, and we are very happy to have you here. Mr. Ravi's career has got several milestones and achievements, some of which we will be able to understand in the interaction. He is the co-inventor and program in charge of the award-winning intelligent and self-learning technology SensorNet, which is also known as 21st century base station security and screening technology. We will be very happy to touch upon some of these aspects and his journey covering these milestones. Mr. Ravi, you'll be very happy to understand that he was born and brought up in Hyderabad. He completed his BE in Electrical and Electronics Engineering from VIT. He also has a degree in Executive Management Program from Tuck School of Business at Dartmouth. Mr. Ravi is currently settled in Washington, D.C. with his family. Very pleased, sir. With these words, I once again, on behalf of ICFAI Group, wholeheartedly welcome you to this webinar. And now I request you to start your talk. And ladies and gentlemen, please mute your mics once again. And now we hand it over to Mr. Ravi Tangirala. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much for such a wonderful start and nice introduction, Sudhakar Rao and Prasad Garu. Before I get started, I just want to say good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending upon where you have joined. And it's a true privilege, and it always excites me to talk to the potential leaders that are in the budding stages, and gives me immense pleasure to give few tips, from my learnings, so that, I always have that satisfaction that I have contributed something back to the society and to the students. And I would sincerely thank ICFAI management team and the institution and all the leaders for giving me this opportunity to interact and share my background and my learnings. So before we get started, I know Sudhakar Garu and Prasad Garu, they said, do you have any slides? Generally we talk from the slides, and it's very common. But when this request came and I said, you know what, let me talk from my mind and heart. Okay. I'm talking to the budding leaders, and, I like the code of ICFAI, learning for leadership. I said, let me just, go with, what I have learned, share, and make it a more interactive session than a regular speech, right? So I'll try to share some of my, learnings in the past 21 years of career, and then we'll make it very interactive. Okay. So just to give you guys a little background, I'm Ravi Tangirala, and in India, people call me as Tangirala Ravi Kiran, and my middle name actually, whatever the name that my parents wanted to give me, Kiran, actually disappeared after I went to US. It became Ravi K. Tangirala, and I became Ravi Tangirala. I'm born in a coastal part of Andhra Pradesh, in Machilipatnam, which is around 60 kilometers from Vijayawada. And my father actually was a banker. At that time, teaching and bankers, these are the pretty much, two professions that people had. And I'm very fortunate to have both teachers as well as bankers in the family. Dad being a banker, we used to get transferred every 2 years. So my education essentially happened in multiple parts of United Andhra Pradesh. And then I, did my bachelor's from Vellore Institute of Technology. At the time, it's VEC, Vellore Engineering College. And right after my undergrad, in the last semester of my undergrad, I got a campus selection and I had to go to US. So 21 years of my life I spent in India, and rest of 21 in US. So coming to my education, I saw the caption of like rural to global, right? As a part of my father's career, as I said, we have seen multiple parts of the world, I should say. And I studied in a Telugu medium school, which is a regional medium school. It's not that my dad didn't want to send me to a English medium school at that time. For the given circumstances where I was very adamant to go to school, and because one of my relatives worked in a Telugu medium school and they wanted me to get situated in the school environment, they put me there. They said, okay, as long as this kid goes to school and studies, we are okay, irrespective of which medium of education it is. So I did all my education in till 10th grade in Telugu medium. And then I had to switch to English medium, right? So in all the 10 years, right, generally at that time, English medium is a lot more prevalent. And it really gave me a good, exposure to some of the families that are underprivileged, where they send their kids, to school so that they can read either a newspaper or a stamp paper. And the intention of the parents is to stop them at 10th grade and put them into the fields or into the work or into like a small scale businesses and all that. And I was like an odd person out. And I always used to feel that, I wish, God gives them an opportunity so that, they can stand on their own feet and go to the next steps of their career. And I started appreciating, what was given to me, as a child, and started taking everything as a challenge, and pretty much got to where I am today. So again, I struggled really hard to get adjusted into the new medium of education. And because everything that I studied was in a different language, it was not easy. Then got admission into VIT and went to a totally different state altogether. So either communication English or in the local language, right? So I was not able to speak in English till I was in my first year of engineering. And at the age of 16, 17, there is no way you could go to somebody and say, hey, can you please teach me how to speak in English? It was not easy. So I had to self-motivate myself and make myself, have the drive to learn so that I can communicate. Of course, writing and reading is a different thing compared to, talking. So I had to, learn everything on my own. So that's where my self-taught, or self-motivate motivation, that environment essentially started. And that kind of helped me throughout my life, where, I essentially learned a lot of things on my own and try to excel myself with the guidance from the near and dear. So in my last year of engineering, actually, I'm an electrical and electronics engineer by, I should say by DNA. And I got selection in E-Trade out of San Francisco. At that time, they started experimenting with global talent, and they came to India, and they selected 2 individuals from entire South India. And they said, okay, we'll make you join us in Chennai, and put you into work. After 2 to 3 years, you have to go back, go to US and work there. I said, absolutely fine. But I have outbeat my lead in terms of technology and understanding certifications within 6 months, where they said, you are going to be the lead, and the lead is going to stay in India, and you come to US. So within 6 months of my, I should say, training program, I got shipped to US. Very interesting, journey. I was very young, and the salary was good. I said, oh, okay, this is what life is. Am I all settled? Like dad, I was having the mentality that once you get in, it's this is what it is, right? And you retire. Then I went to my uncle's house over a Christmas break. I went to a job fair, and essentially went for multiple companies. I got multiple offers. I picked the biggest salary offer letter, joined, and the dot-com bubble happened, and I got laid off. I had no clue what layoff means, I should say. And that's when I realized, what, life is not what it is and how you envision it, right? There are always big challenges that you need to encounter. And that was my first, I should say, hurdle that I crossed. And it was not easy to get a job being on H-1B visa. And when there were like thousands of people that were getting laid off who are citizens with all the credentials, being a foreign national, it was never easy. But, the perseverance and being persistent really helped me to get back into track. And after that, touch wood, I never got, laid off. And after that, I never attended an interview. And all the career progression that I had, my interviews were more of discussions than interviews. And I never had to apply for a job, which I'm very, very thankful. Not feeling proud, but I'm feeling proud about the associations that I got. So I had an opportunity to work in different segments and verticals in all 21 years. Started with finance, went into gaming, AI. Now everyone talks about AML, right? I'm talking about like 2002, 2003. And essentially the AI-based, engineering, insurance, then into federal systems. I'll talk about that in a minute. Then went into aviation, cybersecurity, banking, and then finally in insurance. Worked with some of the top-notch institutions in the world, I should say. In my prior life, I was with World Bank. And I can proudly say that World Bank engagement gave me a wonderful exposure to 176 countries in the world. So I started my career as a software engineer, went into lead roles, then into architecture, then into project program management, then into portfolio management, and then into strategic management, senior leadership, and into executive leadership. And when I thought I reached the pinnacle of my career, being in a very senior position in World Bank with all the diplomatic immunity and being a part of a UN organization, I got another opportunity to try new things again. And I joined MassMutual 2 years and 2 months ago with a one-line job responsibility of go establish the global capability centers and run it. And this is where we are. So that's a brief journey about what I did. Okay, I want to talk about certain aspects that really helped me, because this is what I learned, and this is what I want to give to the community back based on the leadership learnings that I have. The first thing is passion and self-motivation. Very, very important. There is nothing that is waiting for you to grab, right? You have to try hard and hard and hard to get to where you want to get to. And every day you have to get up and be excited about the opportunity that you have and be passionate about what you want to get in your life and the next day. Self-motivation is very crucial and critical. You will not be surrounded by cheerleaders all the time. It is very important that you have to motivate yourself and you have to believe in yourself that you can do it. Right? I'll give you an example. Right? Learning how to speak in English at the age of 17 was not easy, and being a part of a government agencies with the skin color that I have, with the nationality that I have, and with the qualification that I have, and I earned, the position with US Department of Energy and worked with Oak Ridge National Laboratories, which is actually one of the top national labs for, US government, and worked with some of the top-notch PhDs and doctors, and have the badge with the special clearance, and served with 11 agencies, including DISA, DITRA, NSA, DHS, whatnot. And that did not come easy, right? And the reason why, I got that is, I'll give you an example or a real situation. I accidentally went into my boss's office, and there was this discussion happening between my boss and the other gentleman. The guy who was talking to my boss didn't even look back and said, like, why is this foreign national here? And why did he just walk in when we are having such a crucial conversation? I got really offended. I said, like, I was shocked, got offended, felt really bad. And after a day, I went and spoke to my boss. I said, like, who is that guy and why did he, make such a rude statement? He said, well, he is the chief scientist of DOE, very renowned guy. And we are having a discussion around some of the very complex stuff. And I said, okay. I did not ask, like, why did he say that and all that? I said, like, hey, how can I work with him so that he knows what I am and who I am, so that he would not do this to other people? Long story short, the SensorNet program is one of the top-notch programs that was crafted by me, and I co-authored that. And that program, that prototype that I created, made some of the things happen where I got the exception from the top authorities to be a part of a government entity in US with all the clearances. I'm not saying this to say, hey, I have achieved it, but I wanted to challenge. I wanted to challenge the status quo. I wanted to, I always, used to think in my mind that nothing is impossible, right? You show your right attitude, right skill, right, passion, you will get it, right? That's one. As I said, right, I believed in myself. And then I was never happy with what I achieved. I was never happy with what, I got. I always wanted to move. So I worked with, with and in multiple countries before I took my other assignments. I was probably the only Indian that got selected to do a strategic survey in some of the world I produced. I worked in some of the very crucial and critical technologies, which I can't really, talk about, and really made me, feel proud of what has been, done as a part of my government journey. And I'll tell you, when I was getting ready to come for my wedding, I had to sign some paperwork. And I was told that, if you reveal any of the things that we are, we are doing, you'll be in jail or we are going to put the bullet in your head. And they said, we are not joking. So it was that sensitive. Again, being, a guy from, different country, getting acceptance is purely through passion and self-motivation and the drive to achieve. Okay, there is no shortcut for success. You just have to, there will be a lot of people say, either you fail or succeed, right? I say either you succeed or you learn, and that learning is towards the success. You never fail, right? So never have that attitude that, if I do something, I'll fail. No, it's one step towards the success and your goal. And I'm not just saying this because I am on the screen and I'm the speaker. This is what I have experienced. Nothing came easy. I have seen the best and the worst in the last 21 years and never got depressed with what went wrong. I took that as a motivation to do it right. And other thing is, take everything as a challenge. My recent journey with MassMutual is the best example in the very recent example. We signed up the paperwork. We decided to establish the Global Capability Center. And the whole global presence is new to MassMutual. When I say global presence, especially the technology and concept. And I was given the responsibility. I'm new to the organization and the organization new to this venture. So just imagine you being an Indian, you have to establish, a entity in like Tajikistan or, Romania, Rwanda, wherever it is, right? There are trust questions, there are challenges, and there is a lot of internal coordination that has to happen. So on top of that, we wanted to establish this entity in a special economic zone, which we know as SEZ, right? And they said, there is no way, it is coming to sunset on March 31st. Now we are in December. There is no way you're going to do it. So that's the feedback that I got. I said, all right, let's see, I want to go all the way till, March 31st and see, if I gain or lose. So on January 6th of 2020, I signed the paperwork in Delhi. Within 2 months and 26 days, I went from paperwork to payroll. I incorporated the entity in India. I completed all the formalities. There were at least 120 plus formalities that I had to fulfill. A lot of coordination. On top of that, I think on March 16th or, in the second week of March, the whole country went into lockdown. Since mid-February, I had to do everything remotely from my basement sitting in Washington, DC, coordinating with 31 internal departments and several other government, both central and local agencies. I took everything as a challenge. And I said, why can't this be done? It was very easy for me to step back and say, hey, this is not going to happen. But I said, always in my mind, I used to think, every problem will have a solution. If not, it's a fact, you have to live with it, right? So I took everything as a problem to find a solution. And now we are 800 strong within a year span. And we have an objective to grow up to 1,000 by January. So we are growing very fast. And the fascinating thing is, most of us, 99% of us are virtual. So just imagine you have not seen an organization, you haven't worked in, it's a new to the ground. And we had to hire so many people with such a short term, it's such a short notice. Creating the brand awareness, creating whatnot is not easy, right? And I have an excellent and wonderful leadership team that I trust and believe in. And you are there as the motivator and, and the facilitator to make this happen. I always believe in delegation, right? Once you become a leader, always believe in your team. You cannot do everything on your own. And you need a strong leaders under you that you can trust upon and you should build the trust with them, from them, along with them. And always, be patient. And you should always listen to understand, not to argue or respond back. I always tell this to all my leaders, When somebody is coming to you and trying to explain something, always have the listening ear, right? And don't just listen to, give back an answer, whether in your professional life or family life or with your friends, whoever it is, it's the same. Listen to understand. And you should, as a leader, again, I know there is a lot of question and answer sessions. We'll go over all this, but once you become, once you finish your course, once you come up with your next degree, once you get into a good career, please stick to the organization for a long period of time. For you to build a good career, it takes a while for organization to trust you and start investing back in you. The salary that you get is not the investment that the organization is making, right? And you can only grow in your career when you have a long-term tenure with that organization. India, it's very unfortunate that most of the professionals see job as a financial transaction. How much do I get? What is the compensation? What is it? They don't care, how long the organization is. What is the, what is that the organization is giving back to you, the longevity, and the platform that is given for you to grow. It's not about everyone, right? But majority of the people. The organizations are there with or without you and run with or without you. But when you go to the other organizations, they will see your background and the stickiness that you have towards an organization. So give opportunity to the organization to understand you and invest back in you and make sure you grow in your career. Very, very important. And I want to give this input to pretty much everyone that is there on the call. And in your job, please be a finisher. Very, very important, right? You should not touch and go, or you cannot be a starter. You cannot be a middle game player. When you take on something, make sure you finish it. Finish it to the extent that you can essentially make everyone happy and make yourself very happy. That's what I do. The other thing is, never ever say I don't have time. It's all about you, and it's all about how you manage your time. I'm a husband, a father, a son, a relative, a professional, a philanthropist, whatnot. Along with my responsibility here in India, I have few portfolios back in US that I manage in the parent organization. I also advise my colleagues in Romania. On the ground, I am on the advisory board for state of Telangana, working with Ram and Jayesh Garu, providing, and defining, how Telangana should essentially, do better and more. I'm also recently, working with NASCOM, GCC Council, as a part of the GCC Council, working with other GCC leaders for state of Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. And I'm also on the advisory board for ISB, and also on the roles, for several educational institutions. I'm not saying that because, I have to, brag about all the credentials, because the buck doesn't stop. They say, right, in one movie, I'm sure you heard this, right? Success is a journey, not an achievement. The more and more, you think you can do, you will be able to do it. So never compromise with what you got. I never did. And the journey continues, and it is going to continue. And last but not least, you have 4 balls in your hands, okay? The first one is your work. Second one is your family. Third one is your health. And fourth one is, the relations. The work is like a rubber ball, right? You drop it, it bounces back, right? But all the other 3, they are glass balls. You drop it, right? You shatter it. So family, health, and relationships. Make sure you always, take care of that. The organizations, unfortunately, move on with or without you, but not all the others. So make sure you have a good work-life balance and be thankful to the wonderful family that you have that is supporting you in all the ways and means. I'm very, very fortunate to have a wonderful wife and 2 kids that gave me all the support to be where I am, right? They are the unsung heroes that are there behind me. My wife works. She's a mom. She's a teacher. She does a lot of social activities. She's a driver. She's a cook. She's a cleaner. She's a whatnot, right? And she is playing dad's role when dad is not around. So have great respect for your family, for your spouse, your kids, and all the others that essentially, provide you that support. And be very thankful with what you have. And always, try to do your best. Again, I know we have a good time set up for question and answers. I want this to be more interactive. I want to set this stage, and I'm here to share a lot more, in the subsequent interactions and question and answer sessions. With that, Sudhakar Garu, I want to hand it back to you, and thank you.
Great, sir. What a fantastic journey. It's an amazing story that we have just listened to. Along with me, I'm sure most of the people who are around the screen are quite impressed, and not just impressed, but they were just wondering. I'll tell you my personal take on this. I was actually looking into your eyes, and I was looking at your facial expression. Every bit of your body was actually showing that pride, that sense of pride. A great deal of ownership went into achieving all these things, right from your personal journey to professional journey, from Telugu medium to English medium, from a rural place to a place in a different state called Vellore, from India to United States, from a great lucrative job that not only is appealing to you, but is appealing to your relatives in the first place, to a layoff. You have given us several moments of ups and downs to understand in the initial phases also, that in despair and in happiness, how you maintain your equanimity. So pleasing to understand and so inspiring to learn from. The words that you mentioned about your passion, continuous motivation, and that inherent ability to question and challenge the status quo that made you work with some of the most strategic institutions and organizations on mission critical assignments with government of United States. I think that says it all. It's pretty large and huge way you achieved your career. You crafted it extremely well, and on the way you left us several pieces of learning for us, for youngsters, for many more people who are watching this show. And also, last but not the least, is the way you uttered those words: respect your spouse and be thankful to what you have. Your family is the biggest one. The story of the 4 balls, if you drop the work, somehow the work will manage itself. The organizations will move on with or without you. But the other 3 things like family relationships and health will not bounce back. I think we need to take care of that. That beautiful balance between work and life also has been epitomized very nicely. But sir, as I mentioned, every part of your body was displaying that sense of pride, that genuinity, and that journey that you have made from what you were to what you are is a great story of learning for leadership. Thank you very much, sir, for that. Ladies and gentlemen, we now begin the questions and answers, and I request our esteemed colleague, Professor R. Prasad, to come in. I will also do a bit of intro for my esteemed colleague, Professor Prasad. Professor Prasad is an alumnus of IIT Bombay and IIM Calcutta. He was an entrepreneur, and overall he has work experience of about 3 decades. He is currently the Director of Academic Wing at ICFAI Group. He works from the headquarters, and he has handled some fantastic assignments in ICFAI in his journey. And he's heading a program called Online MBA currently. He's the director, professor, and mentor. He himself has architected the fully online MBA program, which was launched very, very recently. Credit goes to him for assimilating so many multiple aspects and bringing out a product that is so great and futuristic. So Professor Prasad will now begin the questions and answers, and I request him to start it straight away. There are many questions and lots of members in the audience are waiting for it, and let us now listen to them. Kindly, all of you, please mute your mics and allow us to moderate it without any noise. Okay, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Professor Prasad.
Thank you, Professor Sudhakar Rao, for the very warm words of introduction. The first part of the session where Mr. Ravi has dealt on his journey, it sounds so much like an entrepreneur. It is, though it is not, if you take the technical definition of the word, it is not so, but the word enterprise is written all over. And, the use of the words, every problem has a solution. And that about, learning, and then if you don't succeed, it is learning. I think these are very, very, very typical characteristics of an entrepreneur. And in response to a lot of questions as to, how one can make it from a place where there seems to be hardly anything, which was kind of picturized in what Mr. Ravi has mentioned about some of his school classmates and what they were doing, to what can happen and what one can do with one's life and how much one can contribute with that. I think very much that has been present here. Entrepreneurship is the driving nature which will make a lot of change to a lot of people in a country like ours. And I think that has been very clearly spelled out in the mindset, attitude, behavior, body language. I think it's all very clear here. So there are a lot of questions. So, the first question actually has been responded to, but I'll just articulate it in case some things need to be added on. About 65% of India's talent is rural, as per the World Bank 2020. And there are no disadvantages and advantages of this talent. I deliberately use the word talent because the population of India is an asset. And there are aspirations and dreams in every pair of eyes that come to be born in this particular country. So this journey and the struggles which have been mentioned and the key lessons, tools, I think they're pretty much laid out in what has been said, but I'm sure that there's something more which would Mr. Ravi would like to add based on this very specific question. It serves as an inspiration for people who come from villages and small towns where there are mental barriers to begin with more than anything else, and those sort of handicaps. So this was actually the first question. And if you'd like to add something to what you've said, you could.
I will, Professor Prasad Garu. So the first thing is, a lot of people think that if you speak in good English, if you can dominate the situation with your communication skills, people think, you are that, superhero, and you have no obstacles in getting into a profession or anything, right? That may be the case with certain entities and all that, but what people look at is attitude than aptitude, because majority of the organizations can buy aptitude but not attitude. So your right attitude is very, very critical. And God has given us, if he has taken something out from us, he has given something else extra, right? Knowing what I know, right? There are a lot of people, that we hire. I insist my HR teams to go and find the gems in rough, to find the talent, and communication is least of my worries, right? English writing skills is least of my worries, but the problem solving skills, the analytical skills, and doesn't matter which language they're explaining a solution, but the thought process behind the solutioning and zeal to learn and zeal to grow is what we look for. Doesn't matter where you are coming from. Just because somebody is born in, like, A grade cities, he or she is superior. Just because somebody is born elsewhere, no. I would say, the companies have eye for the talent, and you should be very, very submissive, and and be humble with anything that you achieve, and that's what will make you successful. And nowadays companies don't look for where you are from. And I always tell people, please be proud to say where you are from. When somebody asks me, I don't say I'm from India. I say I am from Machilipatnam, which is a coastal part of Andhra Pradesh, which is in the South India. So, I mean, you should feel proud to talk about your parents, your birthplace, and where you come from. So that's what I want to add to what you said, Prasad.
Thank you, Mr. Ravi. In fact, much more added this point about one's identity, where one comes from, and feeling a sense of pride in the journey that one has made with that identity and developed it into something else is something truly phenomenal. I move on to the next query. You have worked in many organizations and held different positions of responsibility. Now, when you look at it from a career planning point of view, which many students and professionals do look at, how do you set goals? What sort of choices do you make when you enter, you exit, you develop? Can you share some of those insights?
Absolutely. When somebody asks me a question, what is your 5-year plan? I say that's an absolute nonsensical question. You may be wondering, wow, really? Because you don't know what you're going to be in 5 years unless you do a government job, right? And you need to have objectives. Okay, you need to have that strategic mindset and essentially have very short-term tactical planning. I call it as the flight path, right? A lot of people think it's like a GPS system where you get on a flight, you say you want to go from New York to London, you punch in the lat long coordinates of both places, and the flight automatically goes there. No, they essentially go from point A to B, B to C, C to D, D to E, like that. You essentially put the dots and you go from one dot to another dot. And while you're going to the next dot, you find the next dot. You can't have such a long-term goal because you need to have the tweaking and adjustment. Somebody comes and says, like, what is that you're going to be in next 5 years? The answer is, I don't know. But if you ask me what are my immediate or short-term goals, I have an answer. So what I'm saying is have objectives, saying that, like, hey, this is probably what I want to do, right? And have attainable and practical next steps for probably every 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. If you don't achieve them, don't get depressed. Maybe you are good at something else, right? Don't go totally off track, but see if you can make the tweaks and still try to get there. I'm not saying this to upset or or tell that this is the right answer, because this is what I have implemented. Because it's very, very important, right? That you have that immediate. The thing is that the short term or the short successes will make you feel really good, and they'll encourage you. No, so that's my suggestion, and that's my practical experience as well.
I think a very, very practical approach, and particularly in today's world when so much of change takes place and so many imponderables, I think the flight plan analogy, and I'm also looking at your aviation background. I think it's wonderful to remember it, that okay, you need to reach this destination, but then there is this point A, B, C, and then you need to take those steps one at a time. Very, very practical. Thank you. We move on to the next question. Failure has been a huge dampener for career development of many. I think there's some kind of a curse there. A lot of people with huge talent, huge potential. If only we could take out this factor, that, okay, what do we do? So they get upset with failure. They allow themselves to feel dampened with that. And well, if they want to unleash their potential, maybe that is not the right way. So how do you view failure? How do you cope with it? Can you pick up some important instances and illustrate your approach to motivate us?
Absolutely. Absolutely. See, I never see anything as a failure. It may sound a little weird, but if you start thinking failure is that, you hit the wall and there is no way forward, right? See, everything is a bump or a little, wall that you need to just jump. You may need little more energy, drive and passion to like cross that. There are so many challenges that I have encountered, right? Being in a different country altogether and competing with some of the experienced and locals, right? If you think I cannot achieve, right? I may not have achieved what I have achieved. Whether my presence with some of the government agencies and my position in World Bank, my position in the aviation industry, or my current role. I'm probably the youngest vice president in the organization. And I'm probably the youngest, GCC leader on the ground, and probably one of the, only local, language speaking GCC leader. Again, please don't, get depressed or, suppress yourself if you don't attain what you want to attain. Just say, like, what is failure? You set a goal and you're able to cover only a percentage of that. And if you can't reach there, just go back and come with double the force, right? That's why I said, like, being a finisher is very, very important. I'm not trying to be like a motivator or anything like that, but there is no other God that will come and try to make you cross that line. It's you that you need to believe in, and it's you and yourself is what can help you to get there. There are so many examples, Prasad Garu, that I can give, but all I say is just believe in yourself. That's what is very important.
Thank you. I hope our viewers have taken something back, not just in the response to this question, but also the many examples which have been quoted earlier into how to handle failure. And the key to that is, I think, the fact that there's nothing like failure. It is a question of whether you see something to learn from that, and then you leverage that in order to move ahead with double the force.
I'll give you one example, right? And I'll go back to my intermediate days. When I joined, I got like excellent scores. At that time, getting 85-90% is like achieving the, going to Mars and coming back. With the scores that I got, I was actually put in like a top section. And because of my language or the medium barrier, the first quarter I did really bad. It's not because I could not study, but because only the translation problem, right? And I was put to the fourth section, which is the like first from bottom, right? I cried. I said, like, I went to my dad and said, like, Dad, can you come talk to the principal and say, like, so that they can move me to the top section? He said, like, what is the basis for this conversation? How do I go back? I can't show what you have done in the past. I can only show what is that you have done recently. So you get, what a good, strong support. I'll go back and support you. So I kind of motivated myself. That's a very simple example that I'm giving, right? I not get depressed. I worked double, triple hard. And within next semester, I went back to where I was. So that's a simple example. And I can give a lot more. I mean, with the electrical engineering degree, I said, I want to do justice to what I have learned. And the product, the renewable energy product that I built, it was done in my garage with multiple, it took almost a year or two to get it right. And I know that I need to get to a place. There were a lot of tweaks I need to make. I never saw anything that, failed as a failure, right? It's a learning step. So again, please believe in yourself. That's what will help you.
Thank you. I think that example again illustrates that within self-belief, there's a huge amount of energy which is there within us, what they call powerful forces. which are there within us, which will help us and take us beyond those kind of obstacles that come up, and most of them being mental and not real. Yes, yeah. So thank you for that. I think we move on to the next question, and this question has come. It's a pretty abrupt question, and it's a direct question. I'm just responding and taking it out from what I saw. What are you most afraid of? I think generically it is about fears and how you handle it. So what are you most afraid of? This is it's a very direct question, but it has come up. So I thought I'll put it across to you.
What is I am afraid of? I am afraid of any shift in my thought process that, I need to rest and relax, and every day I get up and, I'm very cheerful, irrespective of the situation, the problem, or anything. And having trusted leaders, colleagues, and partners, right? That's one thing that makes you feel really good. And any breakage and any cracks in that is very fearful. And they say, right, you know what you know what you don't know, and you don't know what you don't know. And the third one is what everyone should be afraid of, because you don't know what's in the corner. But even if you encounter that, you just solve it with a very positive attitude.
Thank you. I think the response to the question also gives us an approach to how to view this entire thing about fears in the mind. Then the next question in this series is related to a little bit, which is not directly related to you in person, but it's about, according to you, what is the biggest challenge in women empowerment, particularly in rural areas, apart from societal challenges?
Very, very good question, and it's very dear to my heart. Again, there is a significant improvement, and there is improvement every year, every day. The biggest challenge is around the introvert mentality. That's one thing that is really, they are capable, or probably more capable than any other urban or suburban women. But the social fears that they have, or that they get imposed on them, is what essentially makes them come down in terms of having that good spirit, or whatever you want to call it, as motivation. And the second thing is seeing women to be a housewife slash a mother who should take care of the family and run the family, and not understanding and realizing the capabilities by the family or the spouse is another challenge. And in the women itself, thinking that after I have if I give birth to a baby, or if I go through like family circumstance, my career is done. Having that fear or the situation is another thing that is something that we have seen. And I always tell them that the women are no less than what a man is. As a matter of fact, they're a lot more powerful and a lot more capable than a male category. I'm not here to criticize the gender, but that's what I have seen. When I worked with 176 countries in my past life, I worked with different cultures, people, mentalities, modalities. It's very unfortunate it exists in predominant areas, but again, there should be some motivation that has to be given, whether it's from family or friends or external people. And now organizations started looking at this very seriously. And in my organization, we started a program called Second Innings, where if any woman, whether from urban area or rural area, doesn't matter, if they have the capability and capacity, and if they have to go through like a family situation and they're ready to come back, we want to hire them, train them, and deploy them. So again, there are a lot of programs and there is a lot of exercise. As a matter of fact, the gender diversity in any of the companies is the biggest challenge. And all the organizations are really striving to achieve at least 60-40. And the average is anywhere between 85 to 50 to 70 to 30. So I'm proud to say, I am at 64-36, which is a very, very good number. And all the freshers that we took this year, they're all women, and I strongly believe that, every leader is planning to do the same, and there is a lot of efforts in that area.
Thank you. I think the second innings concept is extremely wonderful, very supportive, and helping people realize their potential in their lifetime. What they have contributed in the break is far more important to humanity. And I think this is a recognition that something can come out of that. The other thing, and this is something that, very well matched with the top business school research, which I was forwarding today to a colleague, is this fact that what you said, that there is an underestimation of self-potential, which happens because of many forces. And this is what I'm talking about, is something which is researched and come out from a leading prof in the US. And I think, this exactly matches with what you've felt and what you've experienced. Thanks a lot, Mr. Ravi. I think we move on to the next cluster. I hand it back to Professor Sudhakar Rao.
Thank you, sir. I think this is turning out to be very, very interesting and a very different webinar. We have had many webinars. This is the 23rd, as I said, in the past. The discussions and conversations were very different. The learnings, there is an alignment, but then the journey and the type of conversation that we are having is very different. I'm sure it is pretty interesting to not just me, but all the people around the screen today. So we have had a discussion around the fundamental questions, and now we go to the next cluster, and this is on leadership. The theme today is learning for leadership, and several aspects of leadership we already touched, but very succinctly, probably about 4 points we will touch in this cluster. With your permission, I'll take the first one. What differentiates Indian leadership at global firms, especially in services sector?
It's a very interesting question. So if I understand it right, how are Indian leaders, distinguished compared to a leader, outside, right? In India, people look at the age, the experience, exposure, and there are a lot of credentials that are being checked, right? In US, it's purely experience, expertise, and the passion and the it's more of like result driven. Other thing which is very sensitive, I think, in nature is being humble and looking at the title or the role as a responsibility, not as a crown on your head, is one thing that I've seen. And being a generalist versus a specialist is another important aspect. And not having fear to say or accept or communicate is another key differentiator that I've seen. And being down to earth and accepting the mistakes and not worry about other materialistic aspects is another key differentiator that I've seen. Again, it's not everywhere, but and as you grow in the career ladder, you should have zeal and passion to share your experiences and expertise, right? And pass it on to the next generations. And not, is very critical. And other important is customer is not always God, and customer is not always right. Using the right tone, language to help, support, correct, convince are the most critical things that some of the people, have to pay attention.
Fantastic, sir. On that, we have seen a significant rise of Indian leaders at global firms. Do you think, is it because of some pure chance, or do they bring in some inherent traits with them to which will help them to their competitive advantage?
No, there is no shortcut for success, I can tell you, and there is no luck aspect. There is no stars aligning aspect. There is no palmistry or anything. It's pure hard work, dedication, and the expertise that you bring onto the table. I'll tell you, for me to take this role, I have several departments. I come from technology background, but I deal with operations, facilities management, security, transportation. They deal with finance and accounting, all the compliances, the SEC aspects, taxation, general accounting, and all the other, banking related stuff. I deal with like legalities, procurement, all the governing policies and principles. Before, and the HR, right? Talent acquisition, talent management, talent nurturing, the communications, internal, external. So there are so many portfolios. And it is very important for you to be very diversified and be, pay attention to all these areas, which is very, very critical and key, right? And if you don't know it, you should not have fear to talk or discuss and understand, because that's very important. So long story short, nothing comes easy, because you are there on the top of the mountain because you climbed every step. Did not get dropped by a helicopter, and there is no my grandfather or father led an organization.
Great. I think those views are very, very interesting. The ability to be very humble and not take your title as a crown, but take it as a role and responsibility. It's pretty strong and pretty clear view that we can learn from your response. And of course, there's no shortcut. It is all based on dedication, hard work, expertise, and the ability to diversify your strengths. If you have come from a technical background, you also learn expertise very quickly to manage a diverse portfolio of several other functions and departments, because you will be throwing your hat for accepting larger responsibilities in due course of time. I think that's a pretty useful tip for all of us and many of the youngsters who are planning to make their careers in India and abroad. So on this again,
I would like to add one thing, Sudhakar Garu here. I always tell, the way I introduce myself as I'm the master slave for the organization. You should, while you are responsible to take critical decisions, right? You should have the mentality to go with, that consensus-based approach. You should always be a leader, not a boss. And that's not easy to attain and achieve. That's an everyday journey. You are a role model, people will follow you, whether you do it right or wrong. So that's very important, right? That's very important when you want to be a leader and when you are a leader.
Very interesting, sir. I think a very, very good practice like this of a consensus-based approach and being a leader. But what we also understand is that only leaders can develop more leaders. And as you have mentioned in the previous section, if you have trustworthy leaders that you have developed with you in your team, you can handle larger and larger responsibilities across different geographies and different functionalities. I think that's pretty consistent from previous foundational segment to the current leadership. It is coming across as a common point. Thank you very much, sir. You said that you're also handling very variety of functions, and one that I would like to focus on now. What have been your strong principles for building a strong team? Basically, this is about HR, but it is leadership. But especially on the people function, what have been your principles?
The first thing is, I don't believe in interviews.
You don't believe
in interviews? Interviewing somebody, because there is no way you can judge a person with a half an hour or 1 hour discussion. So I believe more in interactions and discussions, because the reason why that person is sitting in front of you is because that person is a professional who is in a job, who has the capability and capacity. So just because I'm hiring that person, I'm not superior. Just because he or she is there, they are not, inferior. So I always have that mentality and approach. And I generally ease the conversation, to essentially get and extract the best out of people. I tell them, I said, like, please don't treat this as an interview, right? Whether you get selected or not, it's I'm looking for a brick. You're a brick. Whether it fits in the groove that I have is or not is the question, right? Whether the person is good or not is not the question, right? With that, you essentially should know how to extract the best out of the candidates. And the second most important thing is, as I said earlier, attitude versus aptitude, right? Having the right attitude, even though they are, short in the aptitude, you can definitely, excel and exceed. The second thing is, I don't bring the experts, who accomplished everything, right? Because for them, it's a cookie cutter model. They say, hey, I have been there, done that, right? No, I want to bring at least some gap where they can showcase that caliber and the efficiency and go from, let's say, 60 to 100% or 80 to 100%. Because I'm giving them the sense of accomplishment and opportunity to grow, and they will respect the job that they are given essentially a much more and bigger responsibility in the new organization compared to the previous organization. And that makes them a lot more responsible. And last but not least, the people skills, right? It's very important for a leader to be called as a good leader and be able to work with, all facets of people in the teams and be called as a good leader is very, very crucial and critical. And the multi-talented nature, right, is very important, because that's what will make you a versatile and a broad thinking person, right? I ask questions like, hey, what do you do in free time? I say, I cook. I cook for my family, and I go on basically do things. So I say, like, what do you do? And I see, how open they are and how, broad thinking that they have, which will essentially give some, characteristics out. And again, I don't let them feel that if they don't succeed in the interview, it's a failure, right? Because I don't want them to feel bad about the organization that they have come in for an interview. So I ensure that, I give them that comfort that, what, something better is waiting for you. So that's how I pick, and I spent several hours, to hire my leadership. And once I hire the leaders, I don't regret or look back. And trust is very critical and crucial. And it's very, very important that, you define and discuss what is needed in that role and be clear in the responsibilities and be very open to, understand what they want to do and give, create a autonomous environment for them to grow. Give the full leadership. I always say, I'm like the bumper guard in a bowling alley. I'm not gonna, and you're a ball who needs to hit the pin, right? So that's how, I essentially, deal and treat and select, my leaders.
Very useful, sir. I think these are pretty sharp responses for a question like how do you build a strong team? I think these are very infectious, and one would love to look at some of these models and practices of believing in interactions and not interviews, and making the other person very comfortable, ease them and try to get the best out of them, and identify the gaps and try and train them for those gaps so that they can start showcasing it and be very, very thankful to the organization as a whole. I think that headroom for building additional talent within each person, I think it defines their honesty, loyalty, and trust. I think trust begets trust. You trust in them and then they trust you back. Fantastic models and practices, sir. Very, very interesting. And also the fact that you spend several hours to hire your leadership tells it all, that you believe in it so much. And fantastic, sir. Thank you very much for that. And I have another very important aspect in this module of questions. MassMutual has a unique concept of ownership called mutuality. Can you please explain how this unique model serves as a strategic advantage in your business?
Absolutely. Very, very good question. Very good question. You know, when think of Mass Mutual, they think that we are a mutual company or mutual funds company. I have to tell, no. Our philosophy is live mutual. You know, if you see, there are only few handful mutual companies in the world. What is that, right? As the word itself explains, you know, we mutually work together and benefit out of that. There are several companies, right? You have public listed companies, privately held companies, and mutual companies. If I have $100, if I go into my brokerage account and buy a share of a company by looking at a graph, and if the company does good, company doing good is like all the people, the leadership, you know, all the hard work, right? If that essentially helps to increase the value of the share, me, just because I had $100 and I bought something that I had no clue, was kind of gambling, reap the benefits only because, you know, I have that $100 I invested into it. So essentially, I am, you know, grabbing somebody else's effort and kind of like cashing into it. Again, there is nothing wrong in it, right? You're being smart. The mutual philosophy is, right, the people that contribute to the success of the organization should get benefit out of it. In our company, in the life insurance company, in Mass Mutual, we have two categories of people or the pillars that contribute to the success. One, the policy holders who essentially pay the premiums, and there are employees that support the policy holders. When the year end, when we make the profits, right, by investing this into multiple portfolios and making money and all that, right, the two key contributors of the success essentially reap the benefits in terms of dividends and in terms of bonuses. We don't believe in somebody coming in, investing and like reaping the benefits for the hard work of me or my colleagues. So that's called mutual. And that's what we are.
Amazing, amazing story. The entire hard work is converted into profits, and profit is given as dividends and bonuses, and it goes back to your employees and policyholders. Very simple, yet extremely profound. Thank you very much for that response. So one last point before I hand it over to Professor Prasad. Today and before, the society has seen a lot of leadership crisis. Several incidents, even the pandemic has tested leadership. But whether it is pandemic or even before, what are your views on the world is witnessing today? Is there such a huge vacuum of leadership? What is your view on this leadership crisis?
This is a very tricky and interesting question, Sudhakar Garu, because there is no lack of leaders, right? There is a lack of demonstrating that leadership and getting the opportunity to, you know, demonstrate that. It's a very generic and genuine question where it is not something that you can just go and learn, right? It's not like learning, you know, joining an institution and you know, getting trained into a specific thing. This has to inherently come, right? And you don't want to settle for something that is low, right? So the question is, how much people are driven, you know, to be a leader and not a follower should be the question, right? And the zeal to succeed and zeal to grow is what is important. And that will automatically and inherently like bring the leaders. And if you take 1,000 people organization, there'll be a leader on the top, but it's not one and everyone, right? There are leaders that can grow into their next stages, but the zeal to grow and getting the opportunity is what is critical. And if you are not, and you should not settle with, you know, what you are, you know, where you are, and you know who you are, right? You should always try for something new and something good, and that's what essentially will fill that void. Again, you know, that's how I feel, and that's what I can provide.
That answer has actually muted me. It's so fantastic. Sir, what I take away from that is that someone who has the zeal to challenge or face the challenges and challenge the status quo would develop a greater sense of empathy among your subjects, your people, your colleagues, and the issues that are concerning the world. I think it's been consistent in your response that face the challenges and keep challenging the status quo, develop the empathy, and you will be the leader. I think that fits into this crucible of leadership very, very well. Thanks for that amazing answer, sir. And with that, I will hand it over to Professor Prasad for the next set of questions. There are huge questions and many additional questions are coming from the audience. And I think today we have very sharply focused members of the audience from varied backgrounds sitting there and then keying in questions after questions. Thank you very much. But Professor Prasad, the next cluster.
Thank you, Professor Sudhakar Rao. I think the earlier question and the response to it is also reminding me of the roles that we have as parents, as teachers, as people who lead others in the organization, that zeal to do something more as a contribution to the others is something that needs to be instilled from very young age and thereafter nurtured by all those who come into contact, whether it's an educational institution or whether it's the leader to whom one reports to or the organization. I think that's a very, very important takeaway, and it's a very root cause. I think that the zeal to contribute and to do something which is useful to others. Thanks a lot. I think that's a very, very fundamental point. This question is about, how is MassMutual using technology as a competitive advantage to enhance customer experience in the industry that you're in? And in this context, what role does the Global Capability Center play?
Good question. Good question. Yep. Insurance and innovation. These are very, I would say, they don't go really along, because some of the policies, the procedures of the way things are done, they haven't not really changed, especially in life insurance sector, right? You want to have a policy, you get the quotes, then you go for like medical exams. Depending upon the output, you'll be given, the premiums, and you take it, and they pay the premiums. And touch wood not, if something goes wrong, you get, your family is taken care of, right? There is no much variation there. And you start, dealing with legacy, being with such a massive scale, you have pretty much all the products, technologies, tools, softwares, whatnot, you have in-house. And it becomes very cumbersome, to manage and maintain all this over the period of time, right? So you're always on the roll, to, dealing with old, current, and new. The technology aspect, what can help, MassMutual is changing, bringing that paradigm shift on how we issue the policies, right? And how we integrate with others, that has the best practices, and how do we ease up, the whole experience is what is very critical, and that's what MassMutual is working on. And we have several initiatives. We have an initiative called MM175, will be 175-year-old company in next 3 years. So there are a lot of initiatives around that, and we are not afraid to experiment anything. So all the way from wearables to a mainframe system, we have pretty much, everything. And we always take everything, as a opportunity. We vet, we evaluate, and we try to see, where the opportunities are. So, I can give so many things. So coming to the second part of the question, where is Global Capability Center helping us, is pretty much whatever I talked about, we are there to support. Technology will help optimize, consolidate, and bring innovative solutions out of the problems that we have. and be creative to bring in efficiencies in people, process, and technology. And we're doing pretty much all the above. If you see, the name of the organization is not Mass Mutual Technologies. It's Mass Mutual Global Business Services. So along with technology, we have pretty much all the other services that we are offering to the parent. So we use our technical and technology strength to solve the problems for the business units that we have. And we are an integral part and a true extension of our parent, which is capable of providing all this to, to build and bring better.
Thank you. Thank you. I think, there is a good perspective that we have received in response to the question. The next question, we're still in the, the GCC space. McKinsey Research, sometime last year, they did a survey of about 46 global competency centers and revealed that during this, the COVID, many GCCs have used work from home and delivered good results on resilience, continuity, and efficiency. In fact, they say that the COVID phenomenon has brought in things that would never have got done earlier. And they say that is being used for a new normal. What has been your experience? What is your take on this?
Well, we are a company that is born during COVID period, right? Where everyone, pretty much 95% of the associates, they haven't really met, socialized, and built that bonding. Yet we have delivered the best and delivered the excellent results in the last 1.5 years. I'm very, very proud with the way the results have been produced. And one thing is very, very important for an organization to treat their employees as entrepreneurs and leaders of us like a startup, right? Make them the business owners of their product, whether they're a developer or quality assurance engineer or a business analyst or a financial analyst or whatever it is, right? And make sure, you make them responsible and establish a link between what they are working to the big picture all the way to the company's goals and deliverables, right? That will make them very responsible. So that's what we have done. We made everyone as a part of the success journey. And we ourselves had a lot of challenges in executing this, but nothing kept me awake in the nights, right? So we are doing fantastic. But one aspect that I see out of all the throughput, output, and the deliverables, right? It's all good. If I wear my business hat, if I continue the same model, my overhead costs are like significantly low. I don't need to pay for transportation, housekeeping, or providing the food, whatnot, the crush and all the other benefits that I have, right? And internet and the electricity, the space, whatnot, everything. If I want to be selfish. But what is missing in people is that bonding towards the organization and the job and to the colleagues. The second important aspect that people are missing is that psychological well-being. If you just get up from your bed and you don't even move a step, you go from the sleeping position to the sitting position, and you open up your laptop and start working, right? It's not good and it's not healthy. There is a routine that is being set for human beings, right? You wake up, you go through a systematic process, you go out, you work, you come back. So it gives you that mental relaxation and that psychological well-being that is actually missing, right? The third thing, that I observe is that fatigueness, right? And people are focused about, hey, how much am I saving being in my remote village or with my parents or in my in-laws, whatnot. But the true thing is, you are losing the ability to manage yourself, your family, and being an entrepreneur in the house, right? And also you're hurting the local ecosystem, where, all the enablement services that purely depend on the employees, you are essentially indirectly, impacting their future, their kids and their families. So while you have big advantages on one side, you also have equally, some holes that are being created.
Thank you. I think, that's a good critique of that report, which was released, in the sense that I think the transactional element of life is one thing. Maintaining business continuity is one thing, and then finding benefits in that is one thing. But the branding aspect of the entire experience is what takes it forward, gives it the energy, and gives it a very differential value. And I think that has been brought out by your response. The the next question in this series is about the potential of global capability centers in India. And there's one report by NASSCOM Deloitte which puts it at about 60 to 85 billion in the next 5 to 6 years, from a current something like 33.8 billion in 2020. And this is expected to be something big, almost doubling. In what areas you've been in a number of sectors, so which areas do you think the scaling is going to take place, and how do we gain as Indians and Indian institutions from that?
It's a good question. I'll answer this question. I also give, I want to give a genuine input around, some of the challenges that companies are having, being a part of NASSCOM, being a part of, the advisory committees in multiple, organizations. I'll provide my input as well. Technology and technology delivery, right? IT and IT enablement services is going to be definitely the top notch that is going to be there. The manufacturing is definitely going to be another. Pharmaceutical is another one, right? And all the others, are going to be there. So which essentially combined together will make us, attain those goals. While we are projecting these numbers, some of the companies that are essentially having challenges around the talent availability and the quality of the talent. If you see in the last 1 year, there is a huge surge in compensation, extremely artificial surge in compensation. And I always tell people that there should be an organic growth in the career, right? If the compensations are going up by 3x, 4x, right? Obviously, the bottom line is getting hit. And that will essentially impact, the exports or the value of, what we are trying to do. If we don't address that issue, it will have not only a short-term impact, but also long-term impact, because world is not, just focusing on one country. And every country is competing. And the biggest challenges that some of these developing nations had, or, I can very well say had, is the communication, the language barrier. And in the last 10 to 15 years, when India is like doing extraordinarily well because we have excellent communication and English speaking skills, they were lacking really behind. Now they are on par with India in terms of talent, the skills and delivery aspect, at much, much lower, cost compared to India, right? So when a company wants to go outside of their zone or the comfort area or the current operating country, whether they go to India or China, to some of the South American countries, or to the African countries, it really doesn't matter. As long as the work is getting delivered with the quality that is being expected, the bottom line is what the companies will look into. And I strongly, hope that India doesn't lose the edge on that, which is where the young talent with 4 to 8 years of experience, not realizing. And again, to my first point that I said is they treat the job as a financial transaction, and they go on to this bidding, situations. And end of the day, whether I do the business here or elsewhere, if I meet my goals, I am good. So just wanted to bring, to answer your question, also bring that perspective, which is very critical for the people that you have on the call.
Absolutely. I think you have articulated a very, very important threat. We have a booming startup ecosystem going, a lot of money getting pumped in, a lot of that money also following what you're saying in terms of, and then, the founders of Infosys getting worried about where the talent will go. All these things are combined, and I think they kind of, they support what you're saying in terms of what can be a danger to achieving that particular potential. And I think that's a very, very, very pertinent threat which has been raised. Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. The last question in this cluster is connected. Connected in the sense that, Ernst & Young says that many MNCs are converting their global capability centers into innovation hubs also, and creating centers of excellence. So this innovation could involve developing of advanced applications of technologies, AI, ML, advanced data analytics, robot process automation, Internet of Things, blockchain. These technologies can be developed in-house at these GCC centers of excellence, or by collaborating with external entities like startups and academia. How is MassMutual as a global competency center positioned for such innovation?
So, Prasad Garu, you made my answer very easy. So whatever you described that the other entities are doing, we are pretty much in the same line. So we are actually connecting the talent, the potential, and academia together to essentially come up with innovative solutions. Some of the technologies that you talked about may or may not be relevant to our line of business because we are not a product company, right? But whatever is applicable, whether it's data engineering, AI, right, or cybersecurity, whatnot, right? These are all very critical areas for us. And whatever comes up new, we want to make sure, we tap into that, innovative mindsets of the companies or the resources that we have, and make our global capability centers not just delivery centers, but also, provide that R&D kind of an environment. Because for us to retain the talent and, and support their needs, we have to have not only the delivery, but also the R&D angle of it.
Thank you. I think that's an exciting response for many people who want to work with MassMutual in terms of gaining quite a bit of learning when they work with you. So I think we come to the end of this cluster. I hand it back to Professor Sudhakar.
Oh, thank you. I think it's, as I said earlier also, it's getting more and more interesting, but we don't have enough time. And I understand that Mr. Ravi has to attend another event now. So what I will do is, I will sacrifice a few questions because all the questions are very good, but I have to make the choice. And that's a tough one. And several other questions are keyed in the chat box as well. I'm going to understand that and probably will write to you so that we can seek your answers. But one question I will ask, sir, and you can continue to keep smiling and inspiring us with that answer as well. Today, the access for education has increased. Education has gone to many places, including rural. What else needs to be done in education so that the rural talent in India can start flowing into entrepreneurship, into jobs, and variety of things like that?
Absolutely. Good question, Sudhakar Garu. I'm glad you asked this question. People are reading in books on how to swim, and they finish from start to end, and they feel that they can just jump into ocean and start swimming. There is a vast difference between bookish knowledge versus practical knowledge. Practical knowledge to an industry knowledge. As long as we can fill the gap between these three, there will be a humongous success, irrespective of which area it is. I went to a school, I said, okay, tell me what is Ohm's law? They just said it. Wonderful. Where do you apply it? I said, like, which one gives you shock? Is it current or voltage? They know, what it is, what they read in the books. But when it comes to practical implementation and where it is being applied, there is a huge gap. And where it is being applied critically and in a practical way, and how it is connected to a industry usage is another gap. Once, people identify the ways to fill these gaps, I think we'll have a tremendous new generation. And that's what India is lacking, and the other countries, right? People don't just read index and say, I'm the expert, right? They will pick one topic and become the masters in it. And they say they only know that, and they will work on only that, right? So that's what we need to practice and learn.
Amazing, sir. Amazing tip. India needs to learn to focus. Even if it is one small area, please focus on that and be an expert. Fill the gap from bookish knowledge to the practical knowledge, and learn how to apply and where to apply. And I think that is what is lacking in India. And if we focus on that, we will end up becoming the world beaters, which we are on our way through some of the global leaders like you representing India. India is very proud. We are also extremely proud of you for having spared your time so much and shared your valuable insights on your multi-country exposure, and more importantly, the insights on how to build oneself, how to build one's career, and how to build others' careers at the same time, and take care of your family, yourself, and health. Fantastic discussion, sir. A global leader's journey cannot be more interesting than this. I'm sure all the members of the audience who have joined today have equally enjoyed as I have, and I'm sure they have taken many notes from the responses that you have given today. We are extremely thankful to you. We are going to meet you very soon in our campus. I wholeheartedly once again welcome you to India as well as to our campus at ICFAI Hyderabad, and would love to see you and talk to you if there's an opportunity of doing that. But for now, on behalf of everyone here, including our Vice Chancellor and the leadership team at ICFAI, on behalf of Professor Prasad, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for this amazing session. I couldn't have asked for something better. Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. And I see this as an opportunity for me to share some of my past and thought process. If some of you get benefit out of it, my objective is met. And thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, and really pleased to have such a wonderful crowd. Thank you.
Great, sir. Thanks. So, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for attending this amazing session. Next Friday at 6:30 p.m. again, we would like to meet you, and we are going to have Mr. Ajay Chawla, the CEO of Jewelry Business Titan Company Limited, another leader next Friday at the same time. So tune in at 6:30 p.m. on October 1st, and we would like to meet you there. Thank you all for joining today.